From the Highlands to the coast, from Murphy to Mania, all NC all the time, you're talking sports, NASCAR, barbecue, local politics, and just about anything else with North Carolina's very own Chris Hughes.
And again, good evening, everybody. 8 o'clock means it's time to talk some North Carolina football or whatever it is we're going to talk about. Joined by my good friend, Miss Deana King. Deana, in the open, you heard him talking about barbecue. That's what I was doing today. I had to enjoy some good old Lexington barbecue.
Well, and I told you as well, I just finished me a good old bowl of barbecue. A friend brought that to me, and so I had me a little sandwich, a little bit left over, and I guess I'll just call it Wilkes County barbecue because that's where it come from.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes, whether it's from a church or, a lot of times fire departments do some barbecue sales to benefit them. It don't have to be Lexington. It can be anywhere, but barbecue's barbecue, and it certainly was good to me today.
And you know what? It's almost fighting words when you start talking Eastern versus Western. We got into that little conversation earlier this year.
Well, and sadly, and I've tweeted about it and I've put it on my Facebook page a time or two, but dadgummit, two of my most favorite barbecue restaurants of all time, Winks up in Salisbury and Carter Brothers in High Point, they've done up and shut down. Now they said it wasn't because of the COVID-19, it wasn't because of any of that, like the business, to their benefit, to their situation, both owners were getting up there in age and maybe they just didn't have family or somebody to take over it. But, it hurts for people like us to love barbecue, but you got to respect their situation.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all kinds of businesses and restaurants, it's just tough. And I try to support my local little eating places around here. I'll give a little prop out to my little place we go a lot, and they have really good barbecue, and it's called Debbie Snack Bar up here in Hamptonville.
Well, we need to go there. I'm only about 25 minutes down the road. We need to go check that out. And, I just love good food. And, and I've tried really hard since the quarantine began and you could only do carry out. And, I tried to make it a priority. And I kind of do this anyway, but I really put an extra emphasis on trying to eat at them local places because, they don't have the national backing of a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A or Taco Bell or whoever, something like that. They really need our dollars. So, I've tried to do that. And I've even tried to do my part and given a couple dollars to the person that brings you food out because, they really need it this time of year.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it looks like we're having a lot of barbecue talk on the comments. I see my good friend Caleb King, welcome back to North Carolina. I know he's a big supporter of us, and I'm glad to see him back in North Carolina. And hey, Caleb.
Bridges Barbecue. I've been there many times.
I've ate there before when my playing days at Wingate when we'd have to go to Gardner Webb. So ate there a lot.
I like this one right here. And these must be coming in off the Carolina Preps page because it's not bringing in a user's name. And I'm sorry about that, guys. If you come in on my own page, it would probably bring in your picture. So I can't tell who you are. Stop the propaganda, Eastern North Carolina Q. Hey, I like Eastern. There ain't no question about it. I love it. I love all barbecue. If you've seen me, my waistline has grown by the year, so I like barbecue. What do we got here? What's up, friend? Are y'all hearing about North Carolina football this year? Deana, I haven't heard anything official, but I said just a little bit ago with Langston and our friends from the Charlotte Observer that I'm growing more concerned by the day and the possibility of playing football. I don't know maybe what your thoughts are, but I'm really concerned.
Well, I like I told you before, I just want some kind of football, and of course we would love to have a full season, but I just want some kind. I mean, even if it's only 5 or 6 games. I know there's a lot of big time matchups we got in the early part of the season that I'd love to watch, and and hope that some kind of, I'm just going to say it, a miracle happens and we get to play some. So we're all like in the same boat. We just don't know what's going to happen.
Brett Hickman has chimed in. Scott's in Georgetown. I haven't been there, but I'll be willing to try that out. Got Dave Wotecki, new head coach up at North Wilkes, and that's a smart man. He likes both, and again, I like both as well. Got Jupiter Wilson right here, gearing up for July 6th, keeping hope alive, and that's all we can do. Certainly, all we can do is just keep the hope alive. I just hope we don't have to see that Shelby defense that year. And then we've got Tom Dula saying can't happen without a vaccine. And sadly, sir, I think you might be right. So we'll see. I think Tom is up in the Morganton area, I believe. So sadly, I think he might be right. Got some more right here. And guys, keep these comments coming. You send us a question, we'll be glad to talk about them. Do you think it's fair that some counties are getting to practice for fall sports while others aren't? I do think it's, well, I don't want to say it's fair or unfair, but I do understand the questioning and somebody bringing that up. Q Tucker has said it's not about the state association. They didn't mandate this. Each individual school system are the ones that have said whether you can or can't come back and work out. Now, I will say this because I talk to coaches all day long, as I know you do as well, Deana, and the overwhelming response that I've gotten from coaches who have been able to start working out is that they said, boy, these guys are out of shape terribly. And they've said that, schools that might have 1 or 2 more weeks more than maybe the other school, they really think that school could be at a little bit of an advantage just because of how out of shape the boys are and how much longer it's taking them to get them into any kind of playing shape.
Well, there's always the debate about getting the kids in shape anyway when we're starting, August 1st and had the early mid-August football game. So it's just, I guess it's, it's like you said, it's up to all the different boards, county boards, city
Yes.
boards, what they want their particular students to do. It may be not as a rampant in some of the rural counties, mountain counties that it is in the metro. So, that's a big problem there. So we just have to see.
We got Ronnie Cavaness who is saying Stone is building those Hickory tornadoes, and obviously he means Russell Stone. I don't know about you, Dean. I don't know what you maybe gathered putting together the book, but I know that he got a handful of people that have moved into the school. I know of maybe one guy, maybe 2 that possibly moved down from South Caldwell. So, I know that his numbers have increased every year. The thing that I thought hurt him was some depth at the line for the most part the past couple of years. But I've seen those guys improve. I think Hickory's got a chance to kind of be a surprising team and maybe finish in that top 2 or 3.
My dog is chasing the cat. That's my entertainment sometimes. In this
I didn't see that.
Pardon me if my cat runs by, but Coach Stone, he's won everywhere he's went, and I'm sure he's going to build Hickory into a good program. We know the history that Hickory has in the past, and he's a good one to start that back.
And did you see who they named as their basketball coach?
Yes.
And he was the quarterback on their 96 championship team.
Mm-hmm.
So
Willis.
Yep. So
and Andy Poplin, he went to A.L. Brown. So
he sure did. And
so,
I think he's going to do well there. And I think Andy's going to do really well. I've known Andy most of my life. A good guy. Dion Crampford, we know Dion. Would you recommend that coaches playing out-of-state games look to reschedule those games Should football happen, different states may be affected differently. Deana, and you're obviously a very well versed fan and contributor. I think that you're on the right path in your thoughts because I do wonder how out of state games might happen. Now, some of them, and we'll talk about your friendly neighbors down in Scotland, they play Marlborough. Those schools are about 10, 15 miles apart. I don't know that necessarily those games would maybe be as affected, but you think of some of the national games that we was expecting to see in Charlotte early in the season. I definitely think that those are probably off the table or a stretch at this point.
And you look up in the far mountains of Smoky Mountain conferences, that their teams they're loaded with Tennessee and Georgia schools. So, we don't know. We don't. I mean, I've not paid much attention to what's going on in Tennessee. A little bit in South Carolina, a little bit in Georgia, a little bit in Virginia, but I've not heard much about in Tennessee. But any school that's a border to another state, they have rivalries. Allegheny, they play in Virginia a lot. A lot of the northeastern schools play up there in the Hampton, Virginia Beach area. So it's something to be concerned about.
And Hayesville, I don't think Hayesville plays a non-conference game against a North Carolina school. I think they're all Georgia teams.
Well, they're right there.
They're more Georgia probably than North Carolina.
It makes sense because the teams in Georgia are probably closer than some of the teams, non-Smoky Mountain teams in North Carolina. So.
And Murphy is right there in that same boat. Those two schools have more in common, those towns and communities, with Georgia. I know David Gentry joked with me several times, but he said that Murphy is closer to like 7 other state capitals in other states than they are to Raleigh. And those capitals, it's crazy to think about it, but like Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, I think Virginia, if you did a circle around Murphy, it's crazy that like 6 or 7 different state capitals were closer than their own in Raleigh. That just kind of gives fans, I tell people the North Carolina is like 650 miles wide, but sometimes I don't think, and I know you've made those long trips through the gorge trying to get out there. That's a long, long way out to Murphy.
Yeah, but it was a fun trip, through that Nantahala Gorge, just really beautiful up there. Just enough room for the road, the Nantahala River, and that train track. So.
Yeah, it is beautiful. It really is. We got another one here from Coach David Wotecki. Worried about the loss of interest if we don't play that this year. And, as a parent who's got some kids kind of that age, I share that concern, Deana, because, my son, I think that even now you'd think a boy would rather be outside playing, but I see him, he's more concerned sometimes with playing on his social media device or his Fortnite or whatever, those different games that they're playing than even going outside and playing. And you see the different social media, TikTok and the Snapchat and so many things that these young guys and gals are getting involved in and becoming YouTube stars. And I could very easily see what Coach Wotecki's saying. And man, these kids, I don't think it's going to take a lot to get them off the ball and, their eye off the ball. And Deana, you've had to practice hard in the gym. You play sports at a very high level. It takes a lot of commitment and work and sweat and effort to do that. And then there's a lot of kids who I think would just as soon sit at home.
Well, I've always had the competitive nature. I would find something to do in my house, whether if I was make-believe basketball goal at my door, I was always doing something just in case there was bad weather. But like I saw this weekend in South Carolina at that 7-on-7, these kids, their enthusiasm, they were just really excited to be out and doing stuff and tossing the football and running routes and just, it was nice. So we'll just have to see if they get to continue to do that.
Yeah. Tom Dula says once again, is it possible to get players in game shape with social distancing guidelines in effect? Tom, I have seen some of the videos that the coaches are putting out on the Canvas app. That's an educational based app that they're putting assignments out on, and you've seen some teams really get active and posting, making their kids become accountable by doing certain things on camera. So, I mean, I think you can be active in social distance, but I think it takes concerted effort from the kid. And again, it kind of goes back to my previous thoughts on interest. But I think if a kid wants to get in shape, I think the kid will get in shape.
And most of them know what they need to do. I know I seen social media videos of some of these kids tossing them big tractor tires and all kinds of stuff, pulling a truck. I call it country strong and everything. And a lot of these coaches are taking advantage of the coaches here, the college coaches in North Carolina. They're doing a lot of their training, via Zoom and everything. So, and you'll find out who your leaders are on your team. Who's to say that the kids don't, meet up on their own and have some outstanding senior leaders that and do some team activities, kind of off the record or so.
Yeah. And, I've even seen some coaches get kind of creative in how they have handled these practices, because you can only have 25 people there. And that includes the coaches, the trainers, anybody. And I know that some coaches have even tried to get really creative and have coaches far away, but have them either on their iPads to where they're there virtually on the practice field through like FaceTime. And I've even seen some coaches who have used like their headsets and had coaches like in a press box far away watching, but still having them involved. So, I think that there's things you can do to be creative to try to stay involved and make sure that you're still teaching and having a contact with that player.
Yeah, it's just, we're in a new world. So, I mean, we're just going to have to go with the flow and see, what happens and everything.
Yes, I agree. Tommy Morrison, he says, keep in mind when talking about playing sports in the fall that road games are going to be big. Mark, school administrators now trying to figure out how to get kids that ride bus to school. Good point. Then throw in sporting events, can't load up the bus anymore. Tommy, that kind of goes along with what I've said on my show with Langston and the Talking Preps crew. And it's why I'm really concerned about even having football to begin with, because, I'm already hearing some rumblings that, maybe elementary schools will be going into an A-Day, B-Day concept. And maybe for the entire first semester, high schoolers might be learning virtually like they were last year. And that is my big thing. I think that if school students are not traditionally into class every day, to me, I think athletics is an afterthought and they won't happen. Now, I may be wrong, but I just look at it from an administrative point of view, parents, the legal side. How can you get players to school? Can't ride the bus if they're not in school every day. That's what concerns me about the season.
Yeah, it's a good point. Probably something nobody's really thought of, but yeah, they got to travel to the games, and that's going to be an obstacle.
I agree. Dion Cranford once again says football programs have always caused headaches when realignment rolls around. Football had to separate classification system from other sports. Do you think that would work? ADM doesn't affect other sports quite as much. That's a good point. Dion, I don't. When I talked to Q a few weeks ago, Q Tucker, the commissioner of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, she said that they have some different options that they are looking at that are possible remedies for realignment. that aren't traditional, basically going straight up and down by the ADMs like we've done forever, and that they had in the bylaws and in the book of things they could do. She had mentioned that they could create a different way to class teams instead of just straight up and down ADMs, and some different factors she mentioned were placement, like a certain average of your Wells Fargo Cup standings for a certain amount of time. And there were other standards in there, such as, different scores for, free lunch standards and some metropolitan standards. And, it almost sounded like, teams that are really good might get bumped up, whereas teams that haven't performed as well, it might be somewhat of a handicap system. And I know that that's a really outside of the box way of thinking, but, I applauded Q when she told me that on the air, because it shows to me that the board of directors realizes that the box that we've kind of been roped into doing for so long it keeps producing the same results. And, it tells me that they're willing to try something different to see if we can get a better response. And, it may not work. It might be the worst thing they ever do. But if they're trying to do something different to make the realignments better, I'm all for it.
Yeah, realignment is always a big topic. I'm sorry for the dog. But 1A and 4A, they're the biggest two classes that are affected. There's a drastic spread in the student population at these schools. So, but I'm willing to listen to all kinds of examples. Everybody seems like they got their remedy for it, but it's just it's a tough job.
It is. It really is. William Neal says airborne. That was a young man. He is a retired sergeant major in the Army, but I was his first roommate when he was in the Army. So appreciate you checking in on us today. Coach Rapinick was the head coach up at Perquimans. He is now moved up to Hickory High School up there in the Chesapeake area in Virginia. Worried that it will negatively affect us on the bubble kids in recruiting. And I certainly understand what you're saying. And he clarifies by saying rising seniors. And you know what he's saying, for maybe if you don't understand that terminology, them bubble kids, is, those fringe players who are good enough to go to college, but aren't quite, they haven't got an offer yet. And the guys that were going to, it's going to weigh heavily on their senior film. And I do think, and Deana, I know you're as tied into recruiting as anybody, a whole lot more than me. And I do think that this hurts those kids.
Well, Coach Samick, your good friend, I read a post on the message board today where he had some concerns about that as well. And he made a good point. He thinks that this might benefit the Division II kids or Division II schools, possibly someone getting overlooked and maybe a team like Catawba or a Wingate or Lenore Ryan, they put a kid in the draft, real high draft pick this year. So, I understand the concern, and, it kind of, it's been bummer because a lot of these kids depend on going to these college camps.
Yes.
It don't matter if it's State, Carolina, or Emory and Henry or whatever. They go to these camps, and it's kind of hurt them. So I know you can only watch so much tape or so much film on kids. So
yeah, I agree. Totally agree with what you're saying. There's a comment from Langston. Appreciate your kind words and for getting on there and checking us out today, Langston. Any of you guys that haven't watched our Talking Preps episodes that he has put together, and really he and Sam Griner put together, you need to check it out. I mean, that's really become some good watching. And kind of like what I'm trying to do with this particular little podcast or show or whatever that I've been doing is I don't necessarily want this to be a football all the time. I want to barbecue just as much, or fishing, or traveling, or something. And we've really covered some non-football topics the last few weeks. I had the governor on, and it's been a fun show. So by all means, check them out. Haven't got any questions yet, Dean. I did want to ask you and to kind of give all of our fans out there a status update on your book, because I know that everybody's anxiously awaiting the return of your prep football book that Arnold Solomon started back in, I guess the first one might have been 90 or 91. And I know I'm anxious to get my hands on a new one, but just tell everybody the process of how it's coming along and when we can expect to see that book on the shelves.
Well, I actually got all the material and everything done yesterday, and then we had a few guys make a college commitment, so I had to add them. And then today we had a coaching change. Coach Tad Balcom, that was a longtime coach at Monroe and was at Sun Valley. He retired. Well, he didn't retire for long. He's back at Hickory Grove Christian. He was named today, so had to add him. But it's getting ready to. I'm waiting on one thing, and it's a big one. A very good friend of mine, a really good kid family. Will Greer, that played at Davison Day, West Virginia, and now with the Panthers. He wanted to help me out, and so I'm waiting on to fix Will's page in the book. And so after I get that done, it should be sent off. With it being Friday, it may be Monday, and with the 4th coming up, who knows? But I hope this thing is ready by mid-July. That was always my goal when I did it. Of course, it's been a 4-year absence due to some personal issues with my parents passing away. So I had so many people call, text, email, Deana, when you going to do the book? I almost kind of dreaded even answering the phone and emails and stuff, because I know it's very popular, and I do it for the kids. I sure don't do it. I mean, my accountant told me one time, and he's like, Deana, you just, I don't even want to tell you what you're working an hour. And I'm like, don't tell me. Yeah. Because I don't do it for that. I do it for the love of trying to help. If I help one kid get some kind of scholarship out of the blue from anywhere, I feel I've done my job.
Yep. And I think the same thing too. Excuse me, in terms of, what I've done, but also in that book, I don't think you'll ever make the money you deserve, because I've seen the work you've done more up close this time than ever in the past. And it's a huge undertaking, but the magnitude of the impact that book has, and the work that you've done and that we all do, I know it's felt across the state. So, I appreciate you. And I know so many other people do as well. And I can't wait to see the final product. We do have a couple other questions here. Coach Wotecki is going to chime back in and say, if they have not been offered by their junior year, we all know that they're going down Division 2 or 3. So that senior film for those guys are huge. And Coach, I totally agree with that. And for that reason there, you want to see us get to play because, football is that vehicle that helps people get to the next level. So we'll keep praying for it. And we've got somebody else. You guys do a great job. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for chiming in and telling us. We appreciate that. We're 30 minutes in now, Dino. We got another one right there. Looking forward to Coach Balcom leading that program at Hickory Grove Christian. And he's going to do a great job. I like Coach Balcom. He is a first class coach, even better, a first class human being. I'm glad to call him a good friend. So I know he'll do good for those guys down there at Hickory Grove.
Yeah, I've Coach Balcom coached Monroe when I was in high school, and so I'll pick with him, and he's really good friends with, our former coach up here, BW Holt, and he's always asking me, he's like, how's BW? And I said, Coach, I said, I still can't believe we lost to you guys. We lost in overtime and on a field goal in
Yep.
1989 in the 2A playoffs. And then, with him coaching Sam and Gavin Blackwell, when Sam won the award 2 years ago, I got to go down there, and he's really funny. It was right before Christmas time, and he come out and he had Christmas lights all wrapped around his body, his outfit, his clothes, and they were getting ready for Christmas break. So yeah, he's a great guy. I really like Coach Balcom.
Yeah, and I got to know him a whole lot better. I mean, I'd already known him for years, but got to spend a lot of time with him at the Shrine Bowl this year, and really enjoyed spending time with him. Byron Peacock says, and I know that guy, by the way, how well is Mooresville predicted to do with their new head coach? Byron, I think Mooresville is going to be a really good football team. They won 7 games last year. I think they won 9 the year before. Mooresville is going to be good, and they've got a lot of numbers. I talked to Joe Nixon, the new head football coach, who came over from West Rowan, had been at North Rowan too. They got a first-class coach in Joe, so they're going to be fine in that aspect. They're going to be prepared. They've got numbers. They got some good talent. But here's the downside to that question, Byron, and the problem isn't them or the coach. It's that IMEC conference. You've got to go in weekly with Mallard Creek and Huff and defending state champions Vance. And by the way, Lake Norman's not shabby. They're going to have a really good year. Lake Norman's going to be tough, and that's a rivalry game. We know Coach Sam Griner has got West Charlotte. They're going to be better. Hopewell is a much improved team. Hopewell's not a team to laugh at. That is a really tough league. And then look at their non-conference schedule. They got to play West Rowan. They've got A.L. Brown. Sadly, I think Kannapolis might be the easiest team on their schedule. And we know that Kannapolis ain't really going to be an easy game either. So, I think that while I think the Blue Devils are going to have a good year, and I'll take your thoughts on this, Deana, but I think that just that conference is brutal. I mean, they're going to win a lot of those games, but still, they're going to have to show up and pack a lunch and come to work every night.
Yeah, that I got tickled. That IMAC is tough. Whew. You look at Vance, Huff, and Mallard Creek. I know you submitted your power rankings, and I'm about know that those 3 are right up there at the top up there. So, Mooresville, they may have a really solid team, and a good team, but you don't know about the record because a lot of people just look at wins and losses. They could be a very solid 6-4 or 7-4 and be really good. And
yes.
People like
yes,
how people like to look at wins and losses. So,
but and we got Jonathan Phelps there talking about the Wolves at Lincolnton, and I think Lincolnton's going to be a much better team in that South Fork 2A conference. But year in and year out, though, we see some of those teams that you were just mentioning that come out of that tough conference, 6-5, 6-4, and end up going 2-3 rounds deep in the playoffs. We almost seen it last year with Huff. That can be, that regular season record can be very deceptive.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen 500 teams or sub 500 team beat a undefeated team or a 1-loss team. So strength of schedule comes in handy sometimes.
Yes, I totally agree. Coach Wotecki, once again, where can I get a good barbecue in my new area? Dean, I'm going to give this question to you because you know his area just a little bit better than me. I know Wilkes County, but not quite like you do.
Well, one of the restaurants that was really good was Tipton's up in North Wilkesboro, and I think they closed. So, Little Richards in Yanktonville. Little Richards has places everywhere in barbecue. So I don't really know much about that barbecue up in Wilkes, but you're not that far from Lexington. You got to take up offer from Chris, because Chris is not that far from Lexington and there in Clemens.
Yeah, and Coach, if you make the trip down here to Clemens, we'll ride together. And the first round, I know how much you can eat, but the first round will be on me.
Who is this?
My two favorite. Say that again, Deana.
Who is this person that made this statement?
I don't know. I can't, because it's not pulling in, because it must be coming in on one of the Facebook pages and not the main one. So we can't tell who that is. But whoever it is, we appreciate you. I have no idea, but hey, we thank you. Well, Deana, we're about 35 minutes into it. We're going to cut this short here in just a few minutes. Scott Furr, I know Scott Furr real well. He likes Stamey's and Tyro. I think Stamey's in Greensboro is really good too, for the record, but Stamey's and Tyro is really good. I've been there, and I'll give you a thumbs up on that one, Scott. And I know you have lived in Lexington, so I know you know your barbecue, and you get a thumbs up on that one, without a doubt. RD, let me try this again. Still pondering a few ideas on the realignment. Oh, by the way, that was Coach Moore. Up in Elizabeth City.
Moore from Northeastern. Well, thank you, Coach.
Yes. Hey, let me tell you a quick Coach Moore story. And I hope you're listening, Coach, because I want everybody to know this. And first game of the year last year, I'm always trying to go to games all over the state. I always, wherever I'll go. And they were playing D.H. Conley around week 1, and I thought that was going to be one of the best games of the week. And I drive all the way to Elizabeth City, hang out with Coach Moore, Coach Connor for D.H. Conley. We waited out a rainstorm for probably 4 hours. Just stormed and stormed and stormed. And I thought we were going to get to play. The trainer for his trainer at Northeastern, she kind of had the final word, and the administration kind of huddled up. So we weren't going to wait much longer. So, they ended up calling it that night. But, I had made that trip all the way 4.5, 5 hours from here, soaking wet. I mean, we're standing out there soaking wet. Not only does he drive me back to his office, drives me all the way back to my car, gives me dry clothes to put on the drive home in. That's a good man right there. I don't care what anybody else says about him. That's a good man, that a coach will give you some clothes to wear home because you stood out in the rain with him for about 4 or 5 hours.
That was a common theme. A lot of bad weather, a lot of rainouts and stuff.
And I still got that Northeastern shirt, by the way, Coach, and I'm hanging on to it. So I appreciate you there. Coach Woteki says that he will make the trip. So you got my number, brother. You just let me know. There's RD again saying you can't go wrong with Stamey's in Greensboro. We had this one the other day, Bees in Greenville. I've got to try it. I haven't tried it yet, and sadly, I've eaten barbecue all over this state, but I have not eaten at Bees. Byron, Speedy's in Lexington, and I almost did Speedy's today. I went to a barbecue center with a good friend of mine, Rick Harrington. We ate at Barbecue Center. We're going to eat at Lexington Barbecue, which is right there on Business 85, but they were only doing the carryout. They want you to sit inside. So we were going to try Speedy's or Barbecue Center, and we got Barbecue Center first because of the way, you just curve up there, get back on Business 85 and curve back up there past the high school, and it's right there. Fortunately, even with their limited seating capacity, because of all the regulations put on by the governor, we were at least able to get in and eat some barbecue. And boy, it was good. But I do like Speedy's. A good friend of mine, B Tango, who gets on the boards. A lot of you guys know him. Speedy's is his personal favorite. So we go up there and we get quite a bit of that Speedy's barbecue. Whoever that is, sorry, yes, baby. I hear you. Starlight Aiden, I've been there. Starlight is really good. Had that before Conley played. I ate there the night that Conley beat South Central in the regular season finale. What, about 3 years ago, when Holton Ahlers was the senior quarterback at Conley, and they put up 77 points on South Central. They put on 63 points at the half. That was the night I swear Conley could have scored about 200 that night if they really wanted to. It was that kind of a game. There's Skylight. There you go, Coach. RD's going to say, and I love these barbecue comments. If we get it up there, come to Pick and Pig in Carthage. RD, I've not been to that one. I drove through Carthage the other day. I had to go down and see my good friend Robbie Yao at Chatley Boats in Sanford, and I came through Carthage on my way back, and I passed by the Chuck Wagon. Now, is that barbecue or is that just burgers, RD? And I'll let you comment on that. But I have heard about Pick and Pig, and I have not come. I've not eaten there yet. But if you'll, maybe one of these days, you and I can try it out. Coach Woteki, they chop up crispy skin and put it in the barbecue. Whew. Are they still open? What time is it? It's 8:40. You think I can get to Greenville by? Not tonight. What place catered to UNC Clinic last year? I don't know, but I will say this: the barbecue they have at Carolina, whether for the pregame meals or the recruiting meals or the coaching clinic, and I've had a lot of that barbecue they serve at UNC for the football team and stadium staff is really good. I might see if I can find out who that is. Scott Burr or any of you guys at the beach want to grab some oysters, crabs, some Seahawk football. I have been telling Mickey Wilson, my buddy Mickey Wilson, the head coach of Myrtle Beach, and I can see. I might pass on the oysters, but I'll tell you what. You find me a bucket of peel and eat shrimp, and I'll probably sit there all day.
Well, Seahawks, I may make a trip down there because you got a player that I really, really like, J.J. Jones. I saw him this past weekend. Big, 6'3", 6'4" wide receiver, one of the top wide receivers in the country. He just committed to Carolina. So I may be down there checking him out later on this fall.
That might be Mac Brown calling you to tell us who that barbecue is. He did call us the Dream Team, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
All right. We'll take a few more of these barbecue questions. Hey, Coach Woteki, I see that one. You beat Conley 77-67 that year. I remember that game. That was some crazy, crazy scores that year. I remember that. I can't eat vinegar-based barbecue. Sure you can, Dion. We got somebody saying Hershey's in Burlington. I know where that's at. Thoughts on the Mountain Valley Athletic Conference in Ashe County? I know that's in your neck of the woods, Dina. I think Ashe County is going to be pretty good. I know they're going to put some points on the board.
Well, Ashe has got their quarterback, Dawson Cox, back, and he really had a great year. Over 3,000 yards passing, and Coach Hampton up there, he can, his teams can put a lot of points on the board. He just has a lot of concerns about stopping teams, and they play a pretty tough schedule up there. They got Watauga, who has been really good in the last few years. I think they played Highbrighton, so that the record kind of didn't look so hot last year, but then when they got in conference, they did do well. Mountain Valley is my home conference. I still think Ashe County is probably going to be the champion, but don't forget about Elkin. Elkin's got a very loaded senior class, and I expect them to be one of the better 1A, the smaller. Of course, they'll be small and make a huge playoff run. So, but with the Mountain Valley, you seen last year, anything can happen. So, but I do think Ashe should probably take it with Elkin being right on their heels.
I agree. I think that Elkin team is going to be really dangerous. All the coaches that I've spoke to from that part of the state that play them. That that group of young men already dating back to when they were in the middle school. I mean, they've won forever, and I think that's going to be a really interesting team to watch. Now, I think they play a little bit of a tough schedule, Deana. So they might not have that 10-1 record, but I think come playoff time, I think there'll be a team that has a chance to win 2 or 3 games in the playoffs.
Yeah, they've got a solid group. That group has won whatever their league ever since youth ball. I think maybe last year was the first time they didn't actually win it, but I can't remember the standings. I think it was maybe a tie. Maybe they lost a tiebreaker or
Yes.
something. But anyway, they're going to be good. They got a lot of kids back from last year's team.
Yes. We'll take a couple more comments. Travis, well, here we go. Ruben says Chuck Wagons more for their hot dogs and hamburgers. All the years I've been driving to Fort Bragg and to Sanford and so many places cutting through 24-27, I've never stopped there. Travis Lemansky says, is that the place where you can sit outside and watch the planes? And I do think the Pick and Pig is the one right there at the Moore County Airport is what I think. I'll let RD clarify on that one. Had a user that talked about Calabash being the seafood capital of the world. I can't deny that. Brett Hickman says Provision Company has world-class shrimp burgers in Brunswick County. I have eaten there, and that is a very, very good place. So I concur with you there, Coach. ADMs would put Tarboro in small 1A, or they could. Man, that'd be scary, Deana.
That happens. I don't even. Maybe 1 or 2 teams could possibly play with them. Total. Robbinsville could play with them. Murphy, if they were small 1A. Elkin, small 1A. But let's get real. You know what Coach Craddock has down there every year.
And Coach Craddock is going to join me one.
That's a compliment to Coach Lohman in East Surrey. To see what East Surrey did last year was just, at that level, I'd never seen passing attack at that 1A level that they had yet last year with Jefferson Boaz and Stephen Gosnell and stuff. I mean, we've seen it before with Independence with Chris Leak and stuff, but they were a machine last year. So, but if Tarboro goes small 1A,
watch out. That's it. And I have I've already spoke to Jeff Craddock and Andy Harding, the staff up there at Tarboro, and I think I'm going to have them on, if not next week, maybe the following week. I'm not sure of my schedule next week. I may be doing some traveling for the holiday. What traveling you can do given the circumstances, but I might kind of take it easy next week. We'll see. We were 2A when I was at Tarboro. That's Coach Wotecki just chimed in. So, I think Tarboro could win in a 4A conference, to be honest.
Well, they're one of these teams that it probably don't matter what class they're in. They're going to be competitive with some of the bigger schools, and basically they have to play some of the bigger schools because a lot of the 1A schools are not going to play them unless they're in their conference. So, and then the big schools are like, do we want to play Tarboro or get beat by a 1A school? So it's kind of a dilemma for them.
It sure is. It sure is. Well, Deana, I think we're going to end it on that note tonight with Tarboro. Give them the final word in that East Surrey team. That was a good state championship. Coach Wotecki says that Tarboro turning the ball over did help East Surrey. I seen that game. I think East Surrey won it more than Tarboro lost it. I've got to give East and that team a bunch of credit. They played a hell of a ball game. So, any final thoughts before we call it a night and hit the pillow?
Just had a great time talking whatever North Carolina. We'll talk anything: football, cheer wine, sun drop, barbecue. I know I'm open to anything to talk about.
Well, I will put together. We'll at least do this a couple times a week, and we'll try to get some more guys on here to talk with you. And I appreciate all y'all for joining us. For Deana and myself, and everybody that has helped her and myself over the years to run these websites, and now working together. I thank all y'all guys too, because as much as I may know, and I'm sure as much as Deana, we can't do it by ourselves.
No, we can't. And appreciate everybody's support, and keep praying that one of these days we're gonna see some football and some sports. Totally, I do sports.
I agree. Well, all of y'all that watched on the YouTube channel, do me a favor and like and subscribe and do all that cool stuff, and get on over to NC Preps and get on the message boards and talk a little sports, because we ain't got a lot of sports to talk about, but we like to hear from our friends, and there's a lot of guys that I ain't seen back in a while, so we'd like to hear from you. So go do that. But for Deana, I'm Chris, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you.